Welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. And of course, I'm your host, David On Point, hopping right there, joined very thankfully to say by Mr. Matthew James. Welcome back onto the show. And he's actually, spent a lot of time in the deserts down by in Arizona. Big Arizona State fan, also big Chicago Bears fan. Matt, it is so good to hear your voice and know that you're back on the show, man. Where my thoughts and my prayers are with you over the last couple of weeks. It's good to hear your voice. It's good to have you back on the show.
Yeah, appreciate it, and thanks for all the thoughts and prayers from you and everybody else out there. So glad to be back on the show and able to be up and running slowly but surely, up and running again. So,
and we love it, man. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Arizona Cardinals. If you couldn't figure that out already, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Let's get right into it. And operation number one, let's talk about. Hold on, I can't. Kyler Murray. Is Kyler Murray the guy in Arizona? He was. I think the team went 3-3 with him as the starting quarterback last season, or 4-4 maybe potentially. I can't remember exactly what the record was with him as the starting quarterback. He started 8 games. He threw for 1,700 yards, 1,800 yards. Let's round up. 10 touchdowns to 5 picks. He was a big time upgrade over whatever they were doing at quarterback before that. Whoever they were rolling out. He's coming off that ACL tear. We're only a couple seasons removed where Kyler Murray got this team to the playoffs. In 2021, I know they didn't play well in that playoff game, but Kyler Murray was good that season. Is Kyler Murray the answer at quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals moving forward? Or, another one, they kind of stuck with him as well.
yeah, they are kind of stuck with them at this point, especially with the fact that, we'll get, further along into this on predictions and everything. So I'll kind of hold off a little bit on that. But the fact that next year's draft class isn't as strong as this year's is a problem for them. Their backup Desmond Ridder had a tough time in Atlanta. Yeah, Arizona is kind of stuck with Kyler Murray. Not going to say he can't be the guy, but now they're starting to get guys coming in. And I love the draft pick with Marvin Harrison Jr. They need that Larry Fitzgerald type guy coming back, be your, go-to solid, guy you can throw to. I love Trey McBride is another guy that's coming along for them. He's got a couple guys in there, excuse me, to help him out, but he needs to stay healthy. That's another huge thing for him. He can't.
Too.
Yeah, he can't. He hasn't played more than half a season for a few years now, or something, I believe. He's got to stay healthy, but
he played 11 games in 2021, and a season where it was a complete loss for the Arizona Cardinals. He didn't have to come back and play it all last season. I think it shows a lot about his character, his mental fortitude. There was a lost season for Arizona. He had no incentive really to play and return in that season. Still played 8 games. I'm trying to see if I can figure out what their record was during the time that he played. But Kyler Murray didn't need to play again this last season and chose to play anyways. With Kyler Murray at the quarterback, they went 3-5 with him at the signal caller. Before that, they were 1-8. So he made a big difference in their offense. Their points per game went up, and they beat that shocking victory against the Philadelphia Eagles coming down the stretch there, where they beat them 35-31 as Eagles were kind of falling apart there towards the end of the regular season there. I think Kyler Murray, I think the height on Kyler Murray has gotten a little bit ridiculous. But we're not that far removed. And I know he had all that stupid stuff about his incentives in his contract and stuff. I personally think that this is a big time make or break season for Kyler Murray. If he comes out and balls out, he's going to have an opportunity, as we touched on it. He's got some weapons. Michael Wilson had a pretty solid rookie season last season. Zay Jones is a serviceable wide receiver. He's going to have James Conner, Trey Benson, who people like coming out of the draft process as the running back position. Also, they have Michael Carter on this team as well. And then Trey McBride, as we mentioned, if you're a fantasy football guy, Trey McBride is definitely somebody I'm targeting in a fantasy football draft. Greg Dortch is a good football player. This is going to be a very interesting season for Kyler Murray because I think this is going to be really important to see if he is going to be the guy moving forward. This will prove what he's going to be like next season.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, moving on into the Marvin Harrison.
Moving into Marvin Harrison. Obviously, you took him with the was it the 4th overall pick? You chose not to trade back, and you take him as Ohio State. Many people had Marvin Harrison Jr. as the number 1 player on their big board. I mean, talking about numbers here, what are we expecting to see out of him numbers wise? I'm having a hard time pulling up rookie numbers from last season. Obviously, Puka Nacua was the bell cow when it came to like wide receiver rookies last season. He was very good as a rookie last year. What are we expecting out of Marvin Harrison Jr. Numbers wise?
I mean, I wouldn't put it past him to push that 1,000-yard mark, 8 to 10 touchdowns. I mean, he'll be the main guy. He's a big guy, good sure hands. He's played in, top competition in, college. Yeah. And this is Kyler Murray's make or break. So he needs to find his, go-to connection. And Marvin Harrison Jr. should be that guy. So, I mean, those are, serviceable numbers for him. Not,
I think
too high.
I think so. We're looking at the stats just from last season, and I know that like some rookie wide receivers that we've seen, like Justin Jefferson has kind of made the number. Like you have to kind of have a Justin Jefferson type season in order to even be like, okay, well this was worth a top 5 pick. But Puka Nacua last season had 1,400 yards receiving to go with 105 receptions. The next guy after him, Rashee Rice, had 938 yards receiving yards with 79 receptions to go with that. The next guy, Jordan Addison, 911 yards with 70 catches on his rookie campaign. I think 1,000 yards is realistic for Marvin Harrison. I think this is going to be an offense that's going to throw the football a lot anyways. I think this is also an offensive line is going to a little underrated. Like Paris Johnson Jr. had a solid rookie season. They bring in Jonah Williams to be your right tackle. If he can find the form that he had a few years ago, I think 1,000 yards, 80 catches, that's a realistic season for Marvin Harrison Jr. Touchdowns are a little bit harder to predict because they can be so wishy-washy and finicky, really. Deontay Johnson went like 2 seasons without his receiving touchdown. But I think if he gets 5 or 6 receiving touchdowns, I think that would be a productive season for Maserati Marv.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're talking about your guy right here, Maserati Marv.
Oh, there he is.
Maserati Marv.
You want to talk about expectations? Let's talk about some expectations for Marvin Harrison.
Maserati Marv, yeah, man. I honestly, I think he's gonna be the best wide receiver. He might have that Jamar Chase, probably even better maybe than the Jamar Chase impact that Jamar Chase had that rookie season that he had. I'm not saying that he will have Randy Moss numbers his rookie season, but he'll be pretty damn good. You could say he's gonna have a year in the realm of what OBJ had his rookie season, what Jamar Chase had his rookie season, over 1,200 yards, because he's gonna get a high volume of throws. Like, I mean, he's legit like one of the. I mean, he's the new toy, right? And I mean, Hollywood Brown, I'm not mistaken. He's gone. He's in Baltimore. So there's no real number 1 option here in Arizona for Kyler Murray outside of Marvin here, Maserati Marv. So they're gonna be down a bunch this season. So they're gonna be throwing the football a lot, and with a big body like that. The only one thing I will say is that Marvin Harrison, now you're going from a shortened, college football season. You're playing, another 4 or 5 games, injury, trying to stay healthy. But the expectations are right out the gate. This guy is going to be, 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 perennial type of receiver in the league. That's just that.
Swinging into the other side of the ball, let's talk about this defense here for a minute. Bottom 3 when it comes to sacks, sacks with 33 last season. They were second to last when it comes to points per game allowed. Can this defense be better this season, or do you think this is still a very much a complete work in progress? The future of Buda Baker, who was a big time player on this team for a few years, not sure if he's going to even be on the team when the season starts, probably because at this point we're already there. But let's talk about this defense. Can this defense improve? I mean, they didn't really add anyone during the draft that really kind of jumps out at you. They really didn't add anyone in free agency that jumps out at you. And I mean, on top of that, I mean, they haven't drafted well. Zayvon Collins, the kid from was it Tulane or Tulsa, or whatever. He hasn't really panned out as a first round pick a few years ago, and they haven't really spent quality draft capital on any of their defensive players. Can this defense be better this season, or do we expect more of the same as we saw last season?
I mean, I'd say probably closer to more of the same. I mean, as you said, they really didn't go out and get anybody. They weren't aggressive or anything in any of the trades or free agency to get anybody or in the draft. So, I mean, obviously, Marvin Harrison was going to be their pick with 4, but, I mean, they had the other chances to get other guys.
They did take Darius Robinson, the edge out of Missouri, at 27.
Yeah, but
he's not even
if Marvin Harrison Jr. is sitting there, you're taking him. So they needed him. So
I think this is the bad draft for all the defensive players. A lot of the really good ones, mid.
I mean, Dallas Turner fell to 15. I mean, he was projected to be a top 10 pick or 17.
Mid first round, mid to late first rounders, and majority of them went second round.
We didn't see a defensive player taken until the kid from UCLA went to the Colts at 15. So, I personally think that this defense is going to be abysmal. Like,
this defense is going to be worse than last year, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know about all that, but this defense will not be good this season. I promise you that.
Bottom 5,
easy. It's not going to be good at all. That's why I said, man, they're going to be in some shootouts. They're going to be in some games where they're down a ton, and they're going to have to just chuck it. So yeah, I mean, this defense, they didn't do anything to improve this defense from last season, besides trying to go out in the draft and add a couple young guys.
And the crazy thing is, like, they brought in Jonathan Gannon to be the head coach of this football team last season. He was a defensive coordinator for a very good Philadelphia Eagles defense. You think, like, if you're going to bring in a defensive-minded head coach, you'd want to draft defensive players, but they've basically spent the last couple drafts going on the other side, and they may score a lot of points this upcoming season, but they're going to give up 25 plus every single week.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to they're gonna give up. I mean, everywhere. I mean, it's just like pick your poison. I mean, not pick your poison, but pick your choosing of what you want to do. You want to run the football on them? You can do that. You want to pass it on them? You can definitely do that. And so it's like pick what you want. NFL. Against the
Arizona Cardinals. From their storylines, let's talk about their draft. They did make a lot of picks. Obviously, we talked about Maserati Marvin. We're not going to really touch on him again. And they took edge Darius Robinson. They took a corner out of Rutgers. They took this very interesting running back out of Florida State that I think will have a big time role. Trey Benson, offensive tackle out of Illinois. They took back-to-back picks. They took Illinois players. This is a tight end. They took another corner. They took a safety, took an edge, an offensive tackle. They took a wide receiver, and they took a corner. So looking at, I mean, they picked places where they had needs. So they had need at tackle. They had needed offensive lineman. They had need at corner. They had needed safety. They had need at edge. They went out and addressed their needs. But none of these guys are really ceiling risers, at least for this upcoming season. Darius Robinson feels like a project at the edge position. And really, they had bigger needs at corner. And there were a lot of good corners on the board that they just chose not to take any of them. I don't know. I'm a little bit mixed.
I'm mixed. All Big Ten guy. He's a nice corner. One thing I will say is, like, I like Max Melton and Elijah Jones. I think they're both solid corners. I think the one thing I say about teams that when they have all these draft picks, except and they had a lot of draft picks in between 1 through 5. It's not like they had a lot of 6 rounders or 7th rounders. 1 through 5 guys are, can be impactful guys to your team. The problem is that this isn't like the 90s Cowboys, right? It's like if you're not hitting on all these draft picks, then you might have missed your beat in trying to package up some of these draft picks and trying to jump back into the early second round or the first round, or maybe package up to get a veteran player back. You get what I'm saying, David? Like you have to hit on all these guys to, you're bringing in, godly, I don't even want to count, upwards of 10 new rookies. And you're hoping that they can, make some type of impact on your football team. And you're like, oh, we're filling a hole here, we're filling we're filling a hole there, we're filling a hole there. But, like, in all likelihood, like, you're not going to hit on all these guys. All these guys aren't going to have the same type of impact as maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have, maybe a Trey Benson is going to have. I like Tip Ryman from Illinois. I think, you still got Trey McBride there, having 2 tight end sets, 3 tight ends on your real good tight ends on your football team in the NFL. It seems to be a trend.
6'5", 271 for Tip Ryman.
He's going to be a blocker on the outside. He's a big boy. He's going to be a nice blocker.
Did not allow a single sack at Illinois while he was last season in college.
He's probably the best blocker. Yeah. He's probably the best blocking tight end in out of the draft. So yeah, like I said, man, you gotta when you're the Arizona Cardinals, you gotta hope that a lot of these guys in the 3rd round. I mean, you get 4 third-round picks. Like, why not package some of those up and move into the 2nd round? Give them to like the Philadelphia Eagles, or give them a team that actually had another 2nd-round pick that was able to, maybe that can make a certain impact. Now, I know you got Trey Benson there and is one of your as your first 3rd-round pick, but you still have 3 others. You had a 4th, you had 3 5ths. I mean, you probably could have packaged some of those guys up and got a really solid, like, I know this guy from day one is going to be an impact player on my team. You got a bunch of guys that, may be great, may be good, may be great, may be cut, may not have an impact. So when I give them a team this terrible as the Arizona Cardinals is, I think you have to look at the fact that we have to bring in as much talent as possible to evaluate our team as a whole going forward, right? So we're going to bring in as many players as possible to see what we can do, and we know we're going young, right? I mean,
it's kind of one of those things. We'll just throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see if any of it sticks.
See if any of it sticks. And I'm going to give it a B. I'm going to give it a B. Go ahead. You had a lot of picks,
Yeah. Izzy touched up on it right there at the very end. What I was going to bring up is the fact that, I mean, all right, they got their prized possession right away. Then the rest of it's just basically, for the future. They got a few years. They're not going to do anything next year. I mean, you could package up picks and get another guy like that, which would have been great. But getting more guys and seeing, more bodies on the field and try to build depth and build an actual team with this, type of depth. And the Cardinals are just terrible all over the place around the depth chart. I mean, we questioned their number 1 pick, Kyler Murray, to start the show.
I think they got something there.
I think they're going to go.
They have a lot of work to do, and they have a few years to get back to being, where they need to be. So
I think this many draft picks and getting
this many guys, I mean, they did pretty well for that, to be honest. But you guys went into it. So
I gotta disagree with you on that, Matt James. It's like they're terrible everywhere. Like David was about to allude to. Like, I think their offense is not gonna be a problem at all. I think they're going to be able to run the football effectively with James Conner and Trey Benson. They have a solid offensive line. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is obviously going to be your number 1 main wide receiver. You got perfect guys around him. Greg Dortch is a nice, solid, high flyer kind of guy. Trey McBride, you had Tip Ryman. I mean, Trey McBride alone just talented enough.
Generalizing the whole thing, they're not very good. Then you bring in Marvin Harrison, Trey Benson. You brought in those guys, but they did have Trey McBride. I mean, I picked him up in the middle of the fantasy season last year for a reason. So, I mean, they do have guys, but overall, they have a lot of holes to fill.
Zay Jones is not bad,
especially on defense. Let's move on from the draft. Let's talk about their notable roster shakeups, additions here in free agency. They shored up that offensive line, adding Evan Brown, who plays a center. He plays guard. Jonah Williams is going to be their starting right tackle. They brought in Zay Jones, as he kind of alluded to there for a second. Justin Jones comes over from the Chicago Bears. Bilal Nichols. I don't remember where he played last season, but he's a defensive tackle. And then departures. Obviously, they traded Rondale Moore to the Atlanta Falcons, and he basically got hurt immediately. Marquise Brown goes over to the Kansas City Chiefs. He gets hurt immediately. DJ Humphries is still unsigned. He's coming off tearing his ACL in like week 11, something like that last season. He's currently unsigned.
Where's Rondale Moore at again?
Atlanta. He got hurt immediately. He's done for the year.
Atlanta. Oh God, Jesus, speedy recovery.
Yeah.
But honestly, man, I think between both of those guys, Rondale Moore and Marquise Brown, I think Marvin Harrison is a clear upgrade from both of those guys.
Sean Murphy Bunting came over from the Tennessee Titans. He's now a member of the Arizona Cardinals. They brought in, let's see what else. They brought in Mac Wilson for what it's worth at the wide receiver position. I don't expect him to have much of an impact at all. Antonio Hamilton was
White.
White
was already there.
He's already there. He came over from the Chargers the season before, the season after. Antonio Hamilton, who was a pretty solid corner for them last season, he goes over to the Atlanta Falcons. They brought in Desmond Ridder via the trade. They brought in Chris Moore at the wide receiver position. None of these guys are really moving the needle when it comes to these fringe roster guys. I think when you're a team that's probably not going to win a lot of games, you're not getting the best of the best when it comes to free agency. But I like the Evan Williams. I like the Evan Brown. I like the Jonah Williams pickup. Jonah Williams, his rookie season, he was a fantastic left tackle. He's regressed every season since then. But if he can capture even a small little tidbit of what he had that rookie season, I think that would be a big time win for the Arizona Cardinals.
You got Big Paris Johnson on the outside at left tackle from Ohio State. He was a high draft. If I'm not mistaken, where'd he go? He was a top 10 pick. Yeah, first rounder. Will Hernandez, the right guard from you got him the year before, I think, from New York. He was one of the best guards in football. So that's why I said this offensive line, this offense is going to be solid. But defensively, we don't, they're just a bunch of guys that I don't know if they are talented enough, to stop some of the, especially in the NFC West where you got to play. Yeah, you got to play Seattle, you got to play LA. You know what I mean? Like
49ers. When it comes to roster shakeup, like this is kind of what happens when you're not a good football team. You kind of get the cast off the players that teams really don't want. I mean, Zay Jones has bounced around the league. He's been on 5 teams in 5 seasons, pretty much. Justin Jones was a Chicago Bear last season. He just comes over. He's a defensive tackle. Bilal Nichols has also bounced around the league a little bit. This is kind of what happens. This is what your roster looks like. This is the kind of free agency you attract when you're not expected to be very good next season. Matt.
Yeah, I mean, not much to go off of this. I mean, Justin Jones and Bilal Nichols have, had their stints with the Bears, and they've, we're lucky to have other guys to, be there for them along the line. Now they have to go out there and, be on their own without those guys right now. So I will see how that goes. Zay Jones, I mean, being next to, Harrison and Burton, he could, potentially make some plays, but I don't see him making too big of an impact.
When he was in Jacksonville 2 seasons ago with Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram, he had a pretty solid season. He regressed mightily last season. So we'll see what he ends up looking like as a member of the Arizona Cardinals. I'm not expecting much from him at all.
No,
I expected it, man. You know what? When Zay Jones came into the league, he was I think he came out of East Carolina, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And he had like the NCAA record for like catches in the season. Oh no, I don't think he was close to it. I think he had like 150 catches his senior year or 140 something. I expected a lot more out of Zay Jones coming out of college.
His senior season at ECU, coming out of Eastern Carolina, he had 158 catches for 1,700 yards and 8 touchdowns. Like he was.
That's why I thought. I was like, man, this guy's gonna be a stud in the league.
And then he goes to Buffalo, and just his career just kind of went in the toilet for the first couple of years of his career. But then he had this weird resurgence in Jacksonville in 2022, where he had 82 catches. He had 830 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns. His best season as a pro by far. And then last season, even though he only played 9 games, he kind of came back down to earth a little bit. 34 catches for 321 yards and 2 touchdowns, and that's just not getting it done. Let's talk swinging it from there. Let's talk about their ceiling. Let's talk about their floor. We're a Positive Pete show here at Prime Sports World. Let's talk about the floor. Let's talk about the ceiling here for the Arizona Cardinals. What do you got them as the ceiling? This is the ceiling, gentlemen. Let's be nice.
Well, 6 wins.
First 3 games are losses. First 6 games.
Commanders, maybe.
No, I think they could beat Washington. I think they could beat Washington.
I did not say first 6 games.
Commanders.
I said 1-5 in the first 6 games. Chargers lost. Dolphins lost. Bears lost. Jets up in the air, depending on what Aaron Rodgers' situation is. They might be by their bye week. They might. How many games they played?
Yikes! All right,
they might be 1-9 by their bye week. They're beating Minnesota 2,
5-12,
3, Carolina maybe 4, maybe 4 wins, 5 wins is their ceiling.
5-12.
I got them about the same way. I got them beating Washington as the ceiling here. Washington, I think they split with Seattle. I think they beat Minnesota, given the recent news with the Minnesota Vikings and all the speed recovery out to JJ McCarthy. They beat New England. They beat Carolina. What is that? 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I think they beat the Chargers. I think they can beat the Chargers in the big toaster. So I'll go 6. 6 wins is their ceiling. 6 and 11.
I don't think they can beat the Chargers, but like you're going to go against a team, and that's you. I was just saying, like, the Chargers, like, coming in, like, some of these games, like, you're gonna be in a track meet with Detroit. You're gonna be in a track meet with Buffalo. You're gonna be in a track meet with a bunch of quarterbacks that love to get in the track meets. Like Justin Herbert loves a good track meet.
He does love a good track meet.
Josh Allen, Stafford twice.
Oh yeah, Stafford.
Then you got Aaron Rodgers in there if he's still there.
That's why I said that one's up in the air because that might be.
I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna say 6 wins at the ceiling. When we talk about the other side of this equation,
I say 5.
I'm gonna go the floor.
5.
I'm going 2. I think they get swept by their own division. I think the only wins that they get, I think they beat Washington early in the season. They try to figure things out, and they beat New England late in the season because I don't have a clue what New England's doing. When it comes to their offense does not scare me. Like, this defense is atrocious for Arizona. New England does not have the offense to even make me worried about. So I got 2 wins as their floor. 2-15 when it's all said and done.
New England is back in the 80s right now. The 1980s. Well, no, they made the Super Bowl in the 80s, so I can't say that. I can't say that. 1970, I don't know. Whatever, I don't know. I'm just talking out my ass here. Yeah, man. You know what? Yeah, 2 wins. I agree with you. I think the only 2 wins is, Washington at home, New England at home. I think Washington, I think Washington might, have some success against some teams. I mean, they may have some success against Arizona. Jaden Daniels. I mean, even though it's preseason,
I just expect it to be a high-scoring game. I just don't believe in this Washington defense either, and I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to score a lot of. That's going to be a shootout game. It's going to be really entertaining.
And I do agree with you. I think they get swept by the division. Like, that's like the worst case scenario for them is getting swept by the division. I do agree with you with it. Like, they possibly can split with Seattle, but I do think they get swept by LA. They get swept by San Francisco, no matter the circumstance. So and then also, I mean, depending on Minnesota, I mean, like, we were talking about, Sam Darnold being, and then JJ McCarthy looked great in camp, and then it looked like all signs were pointing to him being the starting quarterback. Now he goes down. Now it's what Sam Darnold seems. So depending on what Minnesota looks like,
Sam Darnold doesn't work out. I mean, they could bring in Ryan Tannehill. They could trade for Joe Flacco from the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, we'll see.
So I mean, it's going to be So outside of 2 wins, I'll say 3 because I don't think Minnesota is going to be worth a damn next year. So I think at that point in the season, I think Arizona have a little bit more substance than Minnesota have. I think you know, they're
I'm
going to
not,
shut down.
I'm not going to predict that. I got 2 wins. I think Minnesota's going to be good this season. So, or not good, but I think they're going to be better than Arizona. Like, I just think the bar is so low for the Arizona Cardinals. Like, I think Minnesota's at least better than that. Like,
we're forgetting about
still,
Carolina too. I mean, going into Carolina, you would think Carolina is going to be tougher than what they were last year, but they're just still terrible.
Defense could be excellent. It could be a fantastic defense.
Could be excellent. Could be.
They were a top 5. They were a top 5 unit last season in terms of yards allowed, per game allowed. They just
so we still being nice with this. Before I say like
we were already nice with the ceiling.
0 wins? No, they're gonna
yeah. All right, I got them a floor. I'll give them 1 to 2 wins and the number 1 pick. So that's still not terrible. They can go out then they can go out and get the best defensive player coming out of the draft. There.
But then we can also
if they end up with the first overall pick, they're moving on from Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray,
yes, they're going with Shedeur Sanders or whoever.
They'll take Carson
down for Shedeur.
You know what I mean? Whoever's there is the number 1 quarterback prospect. I thought they were going to move on for Kyler Murray this past draft. I thought that they would trade him and get
I thought there was potential that they could have done that the season before too, like where he was coming off that ACL tear, or maybe or like draft a quarterback and see how things work out. It's going to be probably a tough run of it if you're an Arizona Cardinals fan this upcoming season. Thank you very much for joining us for their season preview. And Matthew James, we're so glad you were able to make the show. Glad to hear you're doing well and you're recovering well from the medical situation that you had to deal with. I'm David Upton, Israel Rivera, and Mr. Matthew James. We're going to be swinging into continuing with the NFC West as we got 7 teams left now. The Seattle Seahawks are the next on the docket. We're either going to take care of that this weekend or on Monday. So keep an eye out for all that content. I'm David Upton. Y'all have a good night. And gentlemen, what do we do here at the Prime, my friends?
Bring the heat.
Bring the heat, baby.
And
yes, sir.
Keep an eye out next week. We're also going to be swinging into our fantasy content. We're going to give you our rankings for the season. You don't want to miss any of that stuff. That's going to happen on Wednesday. So we take a short 1-day break off of trying to finish all of the season previews before we get started in the NFL. So you all have a good night and stay safe. I will be gone until Monday, so all have a good weekend. Peace out.
See you guys later.